Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the frequency ranges I like to focus on when EQing bass. Also, as a bonus, at the end of the video, I'll show a cool trick using saturation to enhance the overall character of the bass, specifically the mid-range. A quick disclaimer, I'm going to be talking about how I hear these frequency ranges in a very non-scientific way, so I apologize for all you audio nerds out there. I also use a lot of dynamic EQ whenever I mix bass, and if you don't know what dynamic EQ is, it's a mixing tool that combines traditional EQ parameters with dynamic controls. It allows you to adjust frequencies and determine when and how the EQ cut or boost is applied based on the dynamics of the audio material. I'll be sure to get more into this whenever I'm showing you these examples and try to explain this in a way that's easily digestible. First thing we're going to be talking about is bass sub and low end. So my bass sub track gets summed to my bass bus with my bass main track, which makes up my tone, and I'll show you that here in a second. So what my bass sub, all it is a high pass filter at 55 Hertz with a 18 dB per octave slope, and a low pass filter at 130 Hertz with an 18 dB per octave slope as well. All it's doing is it's going into a compressor to really nail that in to where there's not much movement. So I can blend this in with my bass main track to really fit the style of the song and the sound that I'm going for. And this is what that sounds like. If you're interested in learning more about compressing bass, let us know in the comments. The first place I'm going to be looking at is around 120 to 200 Hertz down in the low end with the low mids. Here you can often find that the bass clashes with the kick drum and also the snare if you're not careful. So let's go ahead and go fishing around and see what we can find. So I'm not too big of a fan of that frequency in this example because this is a faster paced song. It's very technical, so there's a lot of detail in this playing, but I don't want to cut all of this out because it supports the low end of the entire song. So what we're going to do is we're going to dynamically EQ this. Now, as you can tell from the graphics of the EQ, it's only dipping that point whenever it reaches a certain threshold. So if I open up the advanced options on Pro Q3, you can actually see this happening, and you can see what happens whenever I slam the threshold all the way down. It locks it in place, and it makes it not dynamic anymore. It just makes it a standard EQ. Watch this. So you really want to find that sweet spot. Now let's double check it with the guitars and with the whole entire song as a whole. Let's double check our first EQ move in the context of the whole entire song. Sounds great to me, so we'll move on. Let's move on to the mid-range frequency of the bass. This can be around 200 to 800 is where I usually like to look. I often see guys in metal scooping way too much mid-range out. That is where some valuable information is, but we can add this back creatively later as well if we accidentally go a little overboard. So let's kind of fish around like we did before and see what we find. Okay. So right there, I don't really like that, but it's also starting to kind of eat into the high mids a little bit at the end of the slope here. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a 24 dB per octave to kind of bring that in a little bit, and we will cut this accordingly. All right, moving on, we got the high mids around 1K to 2K. This is where I like to look at the pick attack and kind of even that out with the guitar using dynamic EQ again. So we'll go ahead and do that with the context of the guitar in mind as well. You can kind of hear that nasty sound I'm not really too big of a fan of. So we're going to go ahead and bring that down and tame it using dynamic EQ. I thought that sounds great. It's not taking away too much. It's just bringing it more in line with how the guitar sounds so they really lock into place there. The next frequency range we're going to be looking at is around 2.5 to 4K. We're going to fish out any unwanted clank and any super pokey frequencies that might be getting in the way of the guitar and getting in the way of the overhead and the rest of the other high frequency instruments that's going to be in our mix. So let's go ahead and take a listen. All right, I don't really like this 3.1K frequency I'm hearing, so I'm going to tuck that down. I'm probably going to use dynamic EQ again because that's usually what works best for me in these certain scenarios. Also, keep in mind, this is a MIDI bass library. So if you have a real bass, these frequencies could shift around a little bit. If you're using a MIDI bass library that is more dingwall oriented, you're going to have more clank in this area that you might not like and you might want to get rid of. So just keep that in mind. It really varies from MIDI bass library, bass instrument, and song, and what kind of guitar tone you're going for as well. So just keep these things in mind whenever you're making these moves. So let's go ahead and bring this down. We'll get the guitars in here. I think that sounds great. Let's hear it in the full mix real quick. All right, now let's hear this EQ before and after. Now, it's not going to be a massive difference, but this is what suits the mix the best. This is what fits with the guitar tone the best. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. I'm not trying to sit here and overcomplicate the moves for 2 hours. Let's just fix what we need to and move on and get the song out. Also, if you want to at this point, you can add a little bit of a high shelf. You can add some air. You can do some extra high-end moves depending on what tone you're going after. So I'm not going to do that in this example, but you can do that. Now, we did cut these mids. I'm going to show you a cool trick with Saturn to kind of accentuate this back, but in a more pleasing way that doesn't sound as boxy. So Saturn is a multi-band saturator. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add our bands, probably a crossover frequency around 400 and 2K. Sounds like it would be cool. We're going to turn off these bands. We won't need them. We're only focused on the mid-range. And listen to what it does as I turn the drive up in Saturn. We don't want 100%, but backing it off to about 75 really adds some nice depth and warmth to this tone that I really like, and I'll play it before and after real quick. Just adds some extra detail in there that really suits the song well. So now that we've done those two moves, let's listen to everything in context. Thanks for checking out the video, and if you liked it, you may also like this one, where I talk about the 4 mistakes to avoid when mixing metal guitars. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below if you have any questions, and we'll be sure to answer them. Thanks for watching, and happy songwriting.